Kenya's going to ICJ brings more chaos than tranquility in the region. The Kenya's consent to be taken to ICJ under Article 36 was not accepted. And Kenya has a mandate today to take back and do what we call a declaration as to whether they would like to take part in this ICJ. ICJ is not a court of a criminal nature. ICJ is a court of consent. If Kenya wants to withdraw from ICJ, Kenya can take one step back right to the court and stop cooperation with the court. Then the court take its measures until they solve the problems that you see that have been talked about. A Somali judge presiding over a corrupt bench making a decision, forcing Kenya into a corner to appear in this court, even when they are not prepared. The African Union Charter is very clear on the matters of the maritime borders and all the borders of African countries. A constitutive channel that of dialogue on the table could bring about a peaceful end to this dispute that has actually become a pain in the Indian Ocean enclave. It is very sad that the president of Somalia, President Famijo, tries to play to the gallery of imperial whims by calling a bluff of what they had agreed under the chairmanship of African Union. It is very sad again to make it very, very bad to look like African countries are fighting over borders that were demarcated without their knots. And yet, we are looking for a single passport where all Africans will be able to travel in Africa without the boundaries. It is sad again when you look at the trade, the inter-African trade, that charter which Somalia itself has endorsed and ratified, which will allow free trade in Africa without the borders. And then Somalia looks for a barrier that could bring about hardships in the region. Given all this, I think Kenya has a right to go back to the court, to write to the court, to tell them we have reconsidered, and our declaration is that cooperation of this court will depend on conditions, like the presiding judge leaves the bench. Thank you, viewers.
Is boycotting the start of an International Court of Justice hearing to decide its maritime border with Somalia. The dispute is over a triangle-shaped area of about 100,000 square kilometers.
There's been growing tensions, and so far diplomatic talks have failed to resolve the issue.
Kenya has also informed the court that influential third-party commercial interests are fueling the case that threatens to destabilize the peace and security of an already fragile region. Kenya insisting it's...
The maritime border dispute between Kenya and Somalia can quickly be settled by observing a simple fact. All of Africa's maritime borders on the Indian Ocean follow lines of latitude. That is, the South Africa-Mozambique maritime border, Tanzania-Mozambique maritime border, and the Kenya-Tanzania maritime border. Until 2018, the Kenya-Somalia maritime border was internationally recognized to also follow the line of latitude along the Indian Ocean. This was a fact that Somalia recognized for a documented 35 years beginning in 1979. So what changed? Between 2012 and 2014, Kenya conducted extensive mineral exploration of her territorial waters and the continental shelf 200 nautical miles off her coast. Somalia was aware of the process and monitored closely to make sure Kenya did not stray into their side of the continental shelf. Nothing much was expected of this exploration, so Somalia did not dispute Kenya conducting the research. In any case, Somalia was much more protectionist of her deep water fishing zones further north of the maritime border. But the exploration revealed significant oil and natural gas deposits below the continental shelf, and when Kenya announced plans to begin mining, a number of third parties, namely corporations and big oil from Europe, got interested. As we all know, the discovery of oil often leads to destabilization of a region through proxy interference and sudden conflict. But since Kenya has enjoyed years of stability and Somalia is still too fragile to destabilize after years of civil conflict and a persisting terror group entrenched in the vast land territory, a new strategy was needed, and it is a strategy that threatens to upend the East Africa region, worse than American intervention in Libya or the Middle East. Through backdoor dealings and promises to the Somali government, brokers have advanced a territory dispute in the International Court of Justice, a UN body which on paper has the power to make significant rulings, but in truth has little framework to enforce those rulings, leading to perpetual diplomatic breakdowns between several nations. Take, for example, the ICJ ruling on a territory dispute between the United Kingdom and Albania over the Corfu Channel and Islands. The ICJ, being unable to enforce the ruling over territory ownership, has had the Albanian people being left to watch as the more powerful UK Navy parades in their waters without their consent, even though it is an intrusion of the sovereignty of Albania. Furthermore, the ICJ ruling significantly reduced the maritime resources available to Albania and awarded them to the UK, despite the UK having more access to open seas along all her borders, a fact Albania brought up repeatedly but was shut down. This is the outcome likely in the Kenya-Somalia dispute, and it will not just affect Kenya's ability to mine oil and gas. Since 1965, Kenyan fishermen have made their livelihoods in the 100,000 square kilometers that is said to be taken through the ICJ ruling. The tourism, academic research, and import-export sectors are also going to take multi-billion-dollar hits in a single year from the decision, rendering thousands of Kenyans jobless, just as the country is set to begin post-pandemic recovery efforts. Despite Somalia owning over 3,000 kilometers of shoreline and the largest maritime territory in all Africa, the interests of faceless corporations in Europe have advanced a territorial grab that will negatively impact another country, Kenya, which has the smallest maritime territory on the Indian Ocean, and likely spark the next chapter of inter-African unrest that will last a generation. The simple fact is that the Kenya-Somalia maritime border has been recognized for many decades, but greed by the Somali government and big oil in Europe has created a fiction that will likely be upheld by a court unable to enforce a disastrous ruling.
The man in Mogadishu is not a very good guy. He's a puppet fronted by Western powers. Norway is interested in the oil the blocks in the ocean. Norway is linked to the Prime Minister of Somalia. The butcher is the Somali judge
who is there presiding judge, and he was a deputy. He arranged this case. He manufactured it. He brought it up to where it is. Kenya can say no. It's even right now, Kenya can say, excuse me, I am not coming here because of ABCD, and write to the Secretary General of the United Nations. Why are you flying there to do what? To present yourself to the butcher to cut you.
Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the Political Command Center in London. Thank you very much. This is Punchline Africa Television, the only Pan-African station that talks about Africa. What ails Africa? What can we do to resolve conflicts on this continent of Africa? This show is Diplomatic Leaks. This show goes behind the diplomatic lines to see what the diplomats think of Africa. What do they talk about Africa? What do you feel when you are an African abroad, in America, in Europe, in Asia, in China, in Russia? Who are you? What can you say? Do you have a say on your country? Do you have a say on the sanctions that are heaped on each and every day on African countries? This is Diplomatic Leaks from Punchline Africa Night Shows. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. David Matanga from the Political Command Center in London. Thank you. Across the globe, we have quite a number of people. The panel is full and the subject is very interesting. I would like, for the purposes of introduction, to allow our panel to show their face, then they can close their videos. Thank you very much. I would like to begin with Dr. Joseph Nyachama. Dr. Joseph Nyachama I don't know what has happened, but let me move to our new guest on the show, Mr. Makoha. Good evening, Mr. Makoha.
Good evening, how are you? Good evening.
I would like to see your face. People would like to see the person who is going to be very explosive.
Just a minute, I'm still...
Oh, that is Mr. Makoha. Thank you very much, sir, for welcome to this show. Always join in, always make it a point to join us, to give us your... Don't criticize from very far. There's a platform for Africa. We shall talk and agree. Dr. Joseph, can you say, test your microphone, please?
Hello, evening viewers. It is my pleasure to be in Panja, Africa this evening. Thank you and welcome. Sit and you will enjoy.
Yes. Asante sana. Next is our guest, Mr. Ongeri. Mr. Ongeri from Nairobi. Thank you very much. Can you show your face and we know you so that we are not talking with a robot, sir?
I'm in and it's not a robot.
Thank you very much. That's all what we wanted to know. Thank you very much, Ongeri, so that I call upon you from time to time. You will be speaking on the subject of the day today. Next is Douglas Kirimi. Douglas Kirimi from Meru. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Douglas. Let's move on. Next is...
Good evening, Dr. Masanga, and also to our co-panelists.
At least show the face.
and for other people to know that
yes, in a moment I'm working on a technical issue. Just a moment, I'm showing up my face.
Okay, don't worry, you are the bulldozer of Mogadishu. So
yeah, thank you, doctor.
Next is Muhammad. Muhammad, I don't know, Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad Mwish, I can't see you. Mr. Muhammad, good evening, sir. Oh my God. Mr. Muhammad? Okay, next is CK. I don't know who CK is, but we want just to say hi, to see your face, and you can close it later on. Let's move back to, CK. How are you, sir? Unmute. When talking to us, unmute. Test the microphone so that you know you are being received very well in the studios.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening, sir. Thank you. That is Mr. CK. CK means what? I don't know, but you will explain as CK. And next is Mohammed Mwishazam. I would like to see you and say greet to the people. Test the microphone, Mohammed. And that is Douglas Kirimi, the bulldozer of Mogadishu. Thank you very much. Next, the last, but not the list. Is it list? The list. Our investigative journalist, none other than Daniel Sean Wesonga from the CBD Nairobi, somewhere near the garrisons of some serious, near the animals of Nairobi, I think so. Thank you very much. You live across near the animals. You have now upgraded yourself to palatial home. Good evening, Sean Wesonga.
Yes, a very good evening, Dr. Matsanga. A very good evening, Dr. Matsanga David in London. A very good evening to Dr. Joseph Nyanchama in Nairobi. My good brother, Douglas Krimi Bundi in Meru County. Our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. Also, good evening to the panelists who have joined us this evening.
Thank you very much. This is a full house, and it lacks only one gender parity. We don't have a lady who has joined us. But feel free when you want to join us anytime. Feel free, make your contribution. Make your contribution without fear of anybody interrupting you, stopping you. Even if you are talking for Somalia, that is very good. Even if you are talking for Kenya, that's very good. I am here to moderate the show. Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers. First, the topic of today is very important to the great continent of Africa. Yesterday, Africa lost a great son. The president of Chad was assassinated at the front line by rebels that were trained by General Khalifa Haftar, a Belgian royal general, an American passport holder from Libya, who took over Benghazi, supported by Egypt. They crossed over the desert, trained the military, the rebels, they came, they saw, they conquered. Last night, they killed an African president in cold blood. May his soul rest in peace. But there is something very significant. What does it teach us as Africans? What does it bring to our table, to our minds, to our workplaces? That once a continent of Africa, looking forward after independence, in 1957, the first country, Ghana, received the independence, political independence. We have not run away from the colonial yoke. We are still subjected to manipulations of the colonial masters from the metros of France, from the metros of Europe, of Portugal, of Spain. We are still manipulated by the same imperial powers that still demand our economic and other fruits of our economies and the fruits of our minerals. As we speak today, Africa is now dotted a litany of difficulties. Look at Mozambique. ISIS planted in Mozambique. ISIS planted in Congo, DRC. There is a group of ISIS that came from nowhere and planted itself in Democratic Republic of Congo, where President of Kenya is visiting on a 3-day visit in DRC Congo. Gentlemen, this paints a picture of a nation, of a continent, sorry, which is not stable, of a continent that needs salvation, of a continent that needs rebirth, of a continent that needs to see where the next future generation will be. As an elder in Africa, going into my 60s, I'm very worried. I'm the most worried person that this Africa is now being brought to a conflict. 3/4 of the French-speaking countries are in turmoil. The Sahara region is in turmoil. Boko Haram has taken over the entire northern part of Nigeria. Nigeria is collapsing. The Sahel region is moved on and on, coming closer to now Chad, Libya, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Ivory Coast, Senegal. All these states are affected by the works of terrorist ISIS. What can we learn from this? One thing that we want to learn is, has Africa forgotten itself? Has Africa taken a back seat? Where is African Union? These are the questions that I want my panel tonight to enjoy. Take it from any angle. What is going on in Africa? Is African Union worth it? Can we have African Union calling itself African Union when the border between Uganda and Rwanda has been closed for 2 years? Where is African Union? Can we call African Union when a coup takes place in Chad and the AU chairperson himself from Chad does not condemn it? Coming back to the topic of today, I believe the people of East Africa deserve peace. I believe the Indian Ocean, the biggest route for trading with the East from the metros of Europe, is in the Indian Ocean via the Red Sea in the Suez Canal. I believe the Mediterranean Sea has a lot of difficulties with Africans crossing over for green pastures across in Europe. People from Eritrea have died. People from Gambia have died. People from South Sudan, people from Gambia, Nigeria, crossing over to Italy have been killed or capsized in the Mediterranean Sea. Is Africa looking at itself? Is Africa beginning to see these difficulties coming daily? Is Africa a nation, a continent that can steer our people to the destiny, the younger generation, the youth who are growing up, who have not seen what I have seen? I am now in my 60s. The curtain is arranged by God. I don't have much energy today to walk like I used to walk 40 years ago. I was a fighter from Tanzania in 1978 at my age of about 17. I first picked up an AK-47 to fight against Idi Amin. I liberated my country, but my country never settled until today. Do we leave our generation to that level? Somalia and Kenya have been friends, neighbors, relatives for over millions and millions of years. Is it necessary today for these two countries to have a border dispute? When did they realize that there was need for a border dispute? How did they find out that there was a border dispute? Why should the border dispute come today and it did not come a long time ago? These are the questions that I want my panel tonight to answer. Can Somalia and Kenya find a way to avert a war in the Indian Ocean? I see so many people have joined in, and I will just want you, so that we are not answering and talking with robots. The people who have just joined us, I see many ladies have come in. Thank you very much for joining us. We shall begin by Dr. Joseph Nyachama. Can Kenya and Somalia? The background is very clear. 2014, a case put in the ICJ. Why I'm being neutral today and I will be on the presiding chair is I am one of those who filed a petition. There was no need under Article 35 and 34 of the ICJ statute. Consent want not God, you don't go. If you have not got consent from Kenya, you don't go and accuse me in the ICJ. International Court of Justice is different from International Criminal Court. International Criminal Court is a criminal court. International Court of Justice is a civil court. Therefore, the parties must agree. But what does the AU constitutive arrangement on boundaries say? It says nobody is going to discuss the question of boundaries. As long as you're a member of the African Union, you come back to the constitutive arrangement of AU to discuss the question of boundaries. Somalia ignored that. The leaders in Somalia who took over from the previous leaders changed the course and said we better solve it in the ICJ. The pressure put on Somalia by the countries, and I want my panel to understand me. I say it as it is. The countries that are spoiling the relationship between Kenya and Somalia are 1, Norway, 2, France, 3, Qatar, 4, Turkey, 5, United States of America, oil companies. Those are the main countries that pay for Somalia legal fees to take Kenya to the International Court of Justice. Whether they are just or not, the panel will tell me today. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Joseph Nyachama, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Doc, and my fellow panelists. And first of all, let me get the bearing from what I said in this forum. Dr. Masanga, you know, I said one time that let a child play with the press. I think I'm seeing a situation where the Western world now have closed the line because they killed Absolutely, this was a sniper. They killed the president of Japan. And first of all, AU to have caught the matter urgently, but I haven't seen any. I think now the imperialists have closed the line. For me, killing a head of state is not an ordinary person. That is why I said yesterday, a head of state is a personification of a nation. By killing a head of state, you destabilize the entire nation, and by extension, the entire continent. May all the heads of state in Africa, through AU, take notice of this and act and show anger and say enough is enough. Because the West have a habit of giving with one hand and taking with one hand in the lighting of cameras and take with the other in the shadows. If you look at the situation in East African region, the Somalia and Kenya, for example, Dr. Masanga, do you know that in the streets of Somalia, I have information that Norway gave a grant of 3 billion shillings to light the streets of Somalia as a way of giving Somalia carrot to cooperate and destabilize the East African region through Kenya. You ask the right question. Why now? Is this the time now they are realizing where the boundaries are? No. We know the mischief here. They are using Somalia to get the resources in the waters, the territory of Kenya, and they are pretending that it is Somalia that has conflict with Kenya. The president of Somalia is an agent who's advocating for interests of the West. And the area the leaders wake up, the better for the citizens of the two states. That is both Somalia and Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chama. Your time, when you see this red phone, it means I'm not saying red card, but it keeps time. Remember, all presenters, you have only 2 minutes, within 2 minutes to wind up. So Dr. Nyachama, wind up now.
Therefore, what I'm saying is that there is no need to go into physical war with Somalia. The citizens have enjoyed the hospitality of Kenya, and I know that the general citizens of Somalia supports Kenya as a nation because it has been hospitable. The enemy of the unity between Kenya and Somalia is their president, whom we should not allow to bring this unity among the citizens of the East African region, the Somalia and the Kenyan citizens. And we know it, and we know how the imperialists work, and they be warned now. Daktari, I submit.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph Nachama. The position is very clear. You have brought up a point that it is the external forces that has brought about the seriousness of misunderstanding that we see between Kenya and Somalia. Let me pick one of the guests, new ones, Makoha. My dear brother Makoha, you have some words to throw here, something good for us, the panel. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, participants. Allow me to say this, that possibly you allow me to follow the proceedings, then I can possibly come and contribute in later. If that is acceptable, I submit.
Yeah, it's acceptable, Makoha. Thank you very much. Ongeri, let's bring our new participants to test the tough waters of this place. Mr. Ongeri, do you also want to follow the discussion or whatever it is?
Kindly allow me to follow for now.
Thank you very much. Benedict, do you want to follow the discussion? Okay, I've seen it. Rosalind Momai, you want to follow the discussion? Okay. Following too. Thank you very much. I think this is a great day for me, and I want to stand high to deliver a lecture of my sincerity from the bottom of my heart, that I stand high as an African who has struggled, who has seen what is good for Africa. I have always been there for Africa. And therefore, Africa becomes part of my life. I'm a man who has no border, borderless. I'm a global citizen. I struggle from the experience that I've seen. I come from a background of conflicts. A country of my origin had conflicts. Half of our independence, or 3/4 of our independence, we have been exchanging guns and hitting each other, killing each other. That's why I stood up in the world amongst the imperial corridors in Britain and said, I will not keep quiet. I will speak about the bad things again, which are done against Zimbabwe, which are done against Africa. And I have not shied away from speaking my truth all the time. I have done so. But today, since most of the guests are here, they have come in to listen. Some of them might be students of international relations. Some of them might be students of political science. Some of them want to know what international relations is, what happens between a war. If a war erupts in the Indian Ocean, what are the consequences? What are the consequences of a war? If the ICJ rules against any of the countries, will Kenya keep quiet if the case is in the ICJ? Will Somalia keep quiet? Those are the things that I'm doing, I'm looking at. I'm now looking at the future of the Indian Ocean, that since Somalia and Kenya cannot resolve this conflict. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta flew to Democratic Republic of Congo. And at the same time, President Mohamed Farmajo of Somalia also flew in DRC Congo to meet the chairperson of African Union, President Tshisekedi. Is there any hope that these two gentlemen can sit down, avert a war, remove the case from the ICJ? What are the chances of the case being removed from the ICJ? What can Somalia, what can the international community, under Chapter 7, the United Nations Charter, if there is any regional threat to peace, Article 39 and Article 40 of the United Nations Charter are very clear. There is a threat to national, regional, and international peace once this case in the ICJ is decided upon today or tomorrow. If you decide whichever way you want to take it, the two countries will go to war. And that war will affect the trade in the Indian Ocean. Piracy will return in the Indian Ocean. Do we want that to happen for us? These are the questions that I leave to you, and I leave to people listening, taking notes. For those, therefore, who want to go to war, for those countries that I've mentioned, I want to be on record that today in Africa we have allowed, in East Africa, Kenya was to build a pipeline from Lamu to Lochika in Turkana. And then that pipeline could go all the way down to Masindi and then go all the way up to Juba. The French, upon realizing that there was nothing that was going to be gained out of this pipeline, because Kenya was a very stable country, a stable democracy, a democracy that does not allow manipulation. The French withdrew their support for the pipeline and went out of it, ran to Magufuli. They went to Magufuli and told President Magufuli that we are ready to do the pipeline. And we can give you the money from Tanga, Mwanza to Masindi and Hoima. I flew to Tanzania in 2016. I met the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mahiga Delete. I met President Pombe Magufuli, he's my friend, was my friend, Delete. In our 15 minutes discussion in State House in Dar es Salaam, I discussed something that touched President Magufuli. In the 90th minute of our discussion, something did not go well with President Magufuli. When I say I was in Hotel Hyatt, but Your Excellency, I saw a lot of French people calling themselves Total Oil. What are they doing there? Then he said, oh, they are the ones digging our roads and are digging our pipeline. I said, Your Excellency, be careful. That's what I said. I have no good words for the French for having destabilized Cameroon. Today, Cameroon is bleeding. The Amazonians are dying in huge numbers. There was no help coming from anywhere. So I told him, let's be careful. 6 years passed. Magufuli clashed with the same people, told them to pack up and go. I laughed when I was in London and Nairobi. I laughed my head off. I said, I told this guy that this was not a good thing. But looking at the summary, if you look at the way Total Oil is capturing the whole East Africa, right from Mogadishu, all the way to Kismayo, all the way to Uganda in Hoima and Masindi, Pag to Tanga, we have a problem. In the same region where I suspected and I told Dr. Magufuli, insurgency is there now. There are rebels in Mozambique and the southern part of Tanzania in Nachingwea and the Ruvuma Valley. They are slaughtering people, killing people, maiming people, raping women, defiling women, torturing people, burning houses. I've been vindicated. When you look at our East Africa, Kenya has sent troops into Somalia. How do we protect our troops? Uganda has troops in Sector 1 in Mogadishu, my own brothers. We have lost very many. they die from bombs planted by the terrorists. Uganda commands Sector 1 of Mogadishu. But are there prospects of peace? First, in Somalia. Second, are there prospects of regional peace? If these oil blocks in Indian Ocean are given to some people, one of the nations, if the ruling goes in favor of Kenya, are there people going to stand and wait? Is Kenya going to stand and throw its hands in the air? The answer is no. Kenya will fight. If the ruling goes against Kenya, against Somalia, will Somalia wait? Already, the viewers and those listening and taking notes, Somalia has trained 1,000 troops, 1,000 pilots. I don't know of a country in Africa which has got 1,000 pilots. But Somalia, through Turkey, has trained 1,000 pilots, sent them to Turkey, brought them back. Turkey has provided the latest planes that have not been with the Americans. Americans don't have those type of planes. But today, Somalia has those planes. You as an East African, a Kenyan, are you safe? Are you safe? At this juncture, let me bring in Douglas Kirimi. Douglas Kirimi, you have been one of the critics of President Farimajo on this issue of the maritime and the war in Somalia. Do you see a possibility of the two countries coming closer and finishing the conflict that has brought us to the international, levels? Do you see? Is there any hope? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga. And in my 2 minutes, I need to tell the world the truth, that for us to be able to have peace in Indian Ocean, in other words, the two countries to agree together and come together, Mohamed Farmajo must go. For us to be able to pacify peace between the two countries, because our relations are in tatters, Mohamed Farmajo must be taken out as the president of Somalia. Number 3, for us to be able to come together and agree on the way forward for people to be able to coexist the way we have been coexisting over a million years later. And today, we need to be able to rate for Mohamed Farmajo and the cabal of readers in Vira Somalia go. Because at the end of the day, what we are having today is Euro robbers who have armed themselves in the name of a stooge, in the name of Mohamed Farmajo, who wanted to steal our well brooks in Indian Ocean, Dr. Masanga, because these well brooks belong to the Republic of Kenya. And I have seen some good news in the papers that Kenya is going to sell their well brooks in Indian Ocean before the year ends, and that is what we want to do. If Somalians had already sold our well brooks, they better return their money, because Kenya is going to sell their rightful well brooks in Indian Ocean, and I support the position of the Republic of Kenya. Number 4, the point of Somalia being used as a stooge to be able to steal our well brooks in Indian Ocean is uncalled for. For us to be able to get to the root of cause of these problems, because the Euro robbers, number 4, are using Mohamed Farmajo to continue destabilizing the region and also Indian Ocean. For over 5 years since 1979, Somalia has been respecting the international boundary between Kenya, international maritime border between Kenya and Somalia. But since Mohamed Farmajo was used by these Euro robbers who want to steal our well brooks in Indian Ocean, Kenya has never been the same again. Somalia has never been the same again. So, Dr. Masanga, my submission is we need to take out Mohamed Farmajo for us to have peace in two countries. If we don't do that, we will continue having a war in Indian Ocean, and Kenya is going to suffer, Somalia is going to suffer because of one man, Mohamed Farmajo, and his people in Somalia. This is a man that has opened a Turkish army training center in Mogadishu that trains over 1,000 youths every week. I'm told by my Somali sources that they train over 1,000 people every week. And these people in Somalia who continue being trained on the kind of nationalism, they don't understand that the resident of Minnesota, because Mohamed Farmajo is a resident of America, that is a citizen of America who has refused to be able to bring peace together because he is a stooge a man who continues using his own selfish ambitions and also greed to be able to steal the oil blocks in Indian Ocean. Dr. Masanga, I submit that Dr. Mohamed Farmajo must be removed as president of Somalia for us to be able to pacify peace in Indian Ocean and also bring the two countries together. We can achieve peace, but Mohamed Farmajo must be removed as the president of Somalia, because this is a man that has brought untold chaos to the people of Kenya and the good people of Somalia. I submit.
Thank you very much. From your point of view, the only way peace can come to the region is by the removal of President Mohamed Farmajo, either by any means, constitutionally, through the vote. The vote is not taking place. Thank you very much for your contribution. But the parliament in Mogadishu has extended another 2 years for President Farmajo to be at the helm of leadership in Somalia. Shoni Wezonga, do you think there is a way that Africa can help and the international community can prevail over Somalia? What can we do to end first the internal strife, then two, resolve the conflict? Of course, one of the conflicts of the maritime system is we go to the United Nations Security Council and throw the documents to them and say we have a problem here. Is it time to do that? Is it time for Kenya to wake up and walk to the United Nations Security Council? Remember, Kenya today is a member of the United Nations Security Council, which determines and can determine what can be done on the Security Council. Is it time for Kenya to wake and place their documents on the table of the United Nations Security Council? Wesonga.
Yes, you are right, Dr. Matsanga, David, and I agree with you that it is time for Kenya to put on the heart, the thinking heart of having resonance in this matter and understand the heaviness and the implications that come with it if we continue sitting pretty well and enjoying the responsible spot of the sleeping beauty in this whole matter. And therefore, there is urgency. Remember, Somalia has already moved with speed and auctioned the oil blocks in the Indian Ocean. That tells you that we have already lost part of the oil blocks that are in the Indian Ocean. And therefore, if we do not move to the UN Security Council to come and be able to actually arbitrate in this matter, we are more likely to lose these oil blocks to Somalia and other interested parties, Western powers. And as Douglas has said, Dr. Masanga, the only solution to this matter is by realizing that President Farmajo is there to act on the behest of the Western powers who are more interested in these oil blocks in the Indian Ocean. He's a gatekeeper, he's a stooge of the Western powers. And that is why, Dr. Matsanga, until today, the US has refused to document Al-Shabaab as a terrorist group. It has been playing a ping-pong game with the issue of the maritime border with Somalia, between Kenya and Somalia. We've seen Qatar, we have seen Turkey training soldiers in Somalia for this particular purpose. So therefore, Dr. Masanga, as we discuss this matter, we have to understand that Africa got independence, but it never got the political and economic independence that it deserves. And it has to be remembered also that the towering opulence that is in Europe today owes its existence on the blood and the sweat of the people of Africa. So many were maimed, so many were killed. Our forefathers were taken into Europe to work there, to build ports, to build cities. And we have never been compensated, Dr. Matsanga. As we speak today, we know that the Germans have been paying, we have been having repatriation and reparations and restitution of the war crimes that they committed during the Nazi regime. But no one has been able to talk about the atrocities, the resources, and the blood of the African people that were committed by the colonialists. And today they continue in a similar fashion by sponsoring atrocities, sponsoring terror groups like Al-Shabaab, sponsoring despots like Farmajo to sit into power so that they are able to use them as conduits to oppress the people of Somalia and also to be aggressors in the region, so as to destabilize the region and be able to get a freeway to loot resources that the one that we have in the Indian Ocean. So, Dr. Matsanga, the only way that remains there, the only option that remains for East Africa, the only option for the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya is to move to the UN Security Council and also make sure that Farmajo is taken out as the president of Somalia. And of course, right now, Dr. Matsanga, his mandate has expired, and the international community actually should be in this game enforcing out Farmajo out of power, because his continued stay in power really raises some concern on what relationship does he hold with other Western international powers. I submit.
Thank you very much. Yours is similar to the sentiments raised by many of us who have spoken before. The route is international community to come in, but we shall come to that later on at a later stage. What can be done now? But let me bring in our special projects investigative journalist of Punchline Africa and the legacy trend, Samuel Tawish or Sasana. Good evening, Tawish.
Good evening, Doctor, and the rest of the panelists in studio, and of course the viewers who are watching this program this evening. I'm very fine, Daktari, and I'm glad to join you on this program tonight.
Yes, go ahead. Can Kenya and Somalia avert the looming war in the Indian Ocean over the maritime border dispute if the countries, the ICJ rules either side? What can we do between now and what can be done by the AU? That's where we are now so far.
Oh, very well. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that. And I think I want to agree with the rest of the panelists who have shared their sentiments ahead of me, Daktari. I think the most important thing here is that, Somalia appear not to have actually heeded to Kenya's call to try and resolve this maritime dispute through what I will call a reconciliatory kind of approach. They decided to go to the ICJ, a situation in which Kenya actually protested and even refused to participate in this exercise because it looked like it was skewed from the word go. It was not procedural, that is according to Kenya. But it has always been Kenya's desire and interest to ensure that the maritime dispute to the Indian Ocean is actually resolved in an amicable way, in a way that does not threaten the already peace, security, and the existing harmony between Kenya and Somalia. But as it looks, Somalia appears to have actually resolved to proceed with this case, something that appears to have really incited the relationship between Kenya and Somalia, and to a large extent, even the people of Kenya and Somalia. So I will say that Kenya and the people of Kenya really feel betrayed by that move of Somalia to go to ICJ. But now you're asking what will be the way forward for us to avoid bloodshed because of this maritime dispute? How can we avoid the bloodshed in the Indian waters, Indian Ocean waters, Dr. Daktari? So my thinking is that maybe we need to involve the regional organs, that the African Union and perhaps the United Nations Security Council, to see into it, but that there's a bigger picture beyond this dispute between Kenya and Somalia. Because again, Kenya is playing a very pivotal role in restoring peace in Somalia. Kenya is contributing a lot to AMISOM, the forces that are trying to fight the Al-Shabaab insurgents in Somalia. So it should be in the interest of the international community and the local organizations, that is AU, to see into it how they can bring these warring parties together so that we cannot have bloodshed because of this maritime dispute in the Indian Ocean, Daktari.
Thank you very much, Tawish. You believe there is hope. You believe that there must be an end to the conflict. But let me give the background to the people who are listening, who are following. One, Kenya and Somalia, long-standing unresolved conflict in a maritime boundary dispute officially started in 2014. 2, Somalia sued Kenya in the ICJ, which is International Court of Justice, for unlawful operations on the islands, on the blocks in the territory they claimed was theirs. The case is still going on, as you see from the pictures on your television. 3, the disputed oil blocks or area is 580 square kilometers, or 62,000 square miles. Somalia, which lies northeast of Kenya, wants to extend the maritime frontier with Kenya along the line of land border in southern easterly direction. Kenya wants the border to head out to the sea on a straight line, easterly line, which would give it more maritime territory, which is normally the boundaries, how we do the boundaries in Africa. Because if you go the Somalia way, you will have to squeeze Tanzania. Tanzania has to squeeze Mozambique. Mozambique has to squeeze South Africa. South Africa has to squeeze Angola. Angola, the whole of this whole map of Africa will be in chaos. After Somalia first brought the case in 2014, the UN International Court of Justice began to hear the case, but there was no consent. Where did Kenya go wrong? Kenya went wrong there. And then you see, for now, we don't want to talk while we are hiding under the carpet or the tables. My television does not allow that. I speak the truth, stick by the truth, die by the truth. The former Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya did not handle this case properly. Professor Gifu Mugai should have not gone to these chambers. Had they asked me, an activist, international activist, a man who knows sections of international law, there was no need of going there. Because going to that court is consent. Period. One thing is consent. And I want my people listening, the students following. The ICJ is consent. The ICC is summons. They summon you. They arrest you. In the ICJ, they don't arrest you. You can't refuse. It's not binding. Why do you want to go to a court which is not binding? Why did Kenya throw itself to a court that is not binding, that you find yourself today? I am very happy with the new Attorney General. And some of us, you heard me shouting and writing very powerful documents saying there is no need of Kenya going there. Let them decide what they want to do. Let Kenya take its stand. If Somalia does not pull out and come back to the end, to the point of reasoning, and then it allows, and Somalia allows negotiations. Somalia allows people to sit on table and discuss the points that have brought a conflict in Kenya, between Kenya and Somalia. Based on international law and international maritime law, it's very clear the court was widely expected to rule in the favor of Somalia. All I want to be very candid that given the pressure that the 5 countries are putting, the lobby, the discussions, the incentives they have given to the judges, I want to tell the Kenyans listening quietly on this platform, I had to struggle single-handedly. I'm not a Kenyan, but I'm a Pan-African. What touches Kenya touches me. My people will have the burden if Kenya is not stable. Many of you look at me when I get involved in making sure that Kenya stabilizes, because I fear for my own country, which is landlocked. I fear for the refugees who will run back to Uganda. In 2007, you saw how many of them in my own village, in my own place where I was born. I have 29 families that have never returned to Kenya. Today, they own land, they have Safaricom shops, they do business, they come here to visit their relatives. We have never told them to leave. We have taken them as our children, our sisters, as our brothers. But we don't want that occurrence again. That's why you see me in the forefront attacking the judge, a Somali judge who was on the panel as the president of the court. I managed to dislodge that judge. I did an investigative piece, delivered it to the court. That judge was removed and taken out and not to preside over the case. But still, that is not enough. Kenya should have done what they did in this last session. Refuse, and pack your goods, pack your files and go to the Security Council. Lay the ground on the Security Council. Tell the Security Council, we have a neighbor who wants to create a war. Nobody wants a war in the Indian Ocean. Believe me or not, none of you on the panel and those listening want a war in the Indian Ocean. We shall not trade. Nobody in Britain wants a war in the Indian Ocean. Nobody in France. Where will the goods pass? Who will sell the goods? How many goods importers will take their goods through the Suez Canal if there is a war in the Indian Ocean? This is why we are here today, and we shall continue talking about it. So I gave you that background. Based on international rulings, although the international tribunal has no powers, it doesn't have powers at all to ensure enforcement. It doesn't have an army to enforce the boundary. Therefore, what will happen? If they rule that these blocks are for Somalia, Kenya Air Force, Kenya Marines, Kenya Army will move in and wait for anybody coming from Somalia to touch anything on that ground. There will be war. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at that type. That's why we must talk now. In 2019, therefore, Somalia criticized Kenya after they later blocked the entry of 2 Somali members of parliament and the ministers after they landed in Nairobi. The relationship between Somalia and Kenya has been an off cold and hot, hot and cold. The panel and you people listening, what do you think has caused this relationship to be cold, hot, warm, medium? At times we feed. Kenya feeds the Somalis. Kenya has a section of Somali businessmen. All the presidents in Somalia have houses in Kenya. Why do they hate Kenya? Is there something wrong in the foreign policy of the Republic of Kenya that is making things very difficult? Is there something wrong in the foreign policy of Republic of Somalia that is making things very difficult for these 2 neighbors not to work? Now, therefore, I come to the second phase. And I will begin with Dr. Anybody who wants to speak among the observers. I don't know whether Makoha is ready now after picking up a few things, or if you have any question to ask, I'm willing to take that question. Don't observe and just go away. I'm willing to take any of your questions. Or if you have a contribution among the guests who have come on the platform, please do so and indicate that you want to ask a question or something that you are not happy or clear about. But if there are no questions, I want to come to the second phase. Dr. Joseph Nyanchama, what is the way forward? What is the way forward? President Uhuru Kenyatta is in Democratic Republic of Congo. President Farimajo was there 2 days ago. Do you think something will come out from the AU chairperson? And as you answer that, has the AU been effective in resolving conflicts on the African continent? If you can put us in light, again, your 2 minutes begin now. Dr. Joseph Nyanchama. Douglas Kirimi. The same question.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga. Thank you, Dr. Masanga. One way for us to be able to pacify peace, President Kenyatta has been peaceful all along.
Thank you, Dr. and my fellow panelists, the guests, and my fellow panelists.
Dr. Joseph, hold on. You waited long. Douglas is on the floor. Finish first, Douglas.
Thank you, Doctor. President Kenyatta has shown willingness to be able to bring this issue into conclusion, and everything that he has been doing. He has been too diplomatic. And for us to be able to do that, we need to compel the international community, especially the UN Security Council, the United Nations Security Council, to be able to deal abroad to Mohamed Farmajo, because at the end of the day, he is the only impediment. He is the only person that is being used. We have not seen people bringing money in gunny bags to President Uhuru Kenyatta so that they can steal our oil blocks in Indian Ocean. For about 5 years, Somalia has been respecting the international maritime boundaries. It is only when Mohamed Farmajo has been used and also taken bribes from Qatari, Norway, and also the people of Turkey, led by their own president, that he has now grown arms, that he can now cooperate with Euro robbers who want to steal our oil blocks in Indian Ocean. For President Uhuru Kenyatta, he has shown the requisite skills and the leadership as far as this issue is concerned. We need to be able to do that. But for us to do that, we need to strongly sanction Mohamed Farmajo from no longer leading that country, even if their country parliament, their country's parliament has been able to put him on 2 years more toward his tenure for a period of 2 years. We need to do something. The international community needs to do something. Mohamed Farmajo must be taken out. I strongly believe for us to move forward, he needs to go. And he does not only needs to go, he needs to answer for the crimes that he has committed against the people of Kenya. He cannot just wake up and lay a claim and take our country into a turmoil, go take us to International Court of Justice, ICJ, where we have a very Abduraqueen Yusuf, a judge that is very biased. We need to be able to deal and do something about Mohamed Farmajo. The first step is to take him out, whether it is illegal, whether it is legally. We must take out Mohamed Farmajo from the seat of power in Villa, Somalia, for us to do that. Secondly, for us to be able to do that is that the Republic of Kenya now has to go to the United Security Council, right? You have done yourself, Dr. Masanga, so that we can be able to take Mohamed Farmajo there. We need to square it up there at the UN Security Council. And at the end of the day, if we do that, the people of Kenya and Somalia shall be able to continue with their own lives. Another Another thing that going forward that should be able to be observed is that these well blocks belong to the Republic of Kenya. There is no point of calling Somalia and Kenya so that we can share. They need to leave our well blocks alone so that Somalia can go back to pacifying their country, take over 4,000 refugees, 400,000 refugees from the Republic of Kenya, and take them back to Somalia so that they can build their own country, so that we can be left with our well blocks. We can sell them. We will sell some this year, some next year. We can even decide not to sell them. We can decide to play around with them because they are our own. They need to leave our territories alone because we have also observed other international maritime boundaries that have been there, that are recognized internationally. We need to be able to be left alone with our own well blocks, because the issue of forcing your neighbor to share their piece of land because you feel it belongs to you and it doesn't belong to you, essentially, it is you that is causing trouble. For us to be able to do all that, the first step, take out Mohamed Farmajo. Second step, go to UN Security Council. Another step, we need to stop antagonizing Kenya. The Euro robbers, people from Europe who want to steal our well blocks in Indian Ocean should leave Kenya alone so that we can be able to pacify peace in Somalia and leave that country alone so that they can build our own country, sell our well blocks or do anything we want to do with them. We should be left alone as a country because this is an aggression and an affront on the people and the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Douglas Krimi, the bulldozer of Mogadishu. Dr. Joseph Nyachama, are you ready now?
Yes, I'm ready, Dr. You are hearing me?
Yes, we hear you properly. The question was...
Are you hearing me? Okay, thank you. I had the question. Let me bowl a leave in my 2 minutes from the great war expert Sun Tzu. He said, whether you will refrain from war or you will go for war. Number one is what we call the moral law factor. Moral law. Number two is heaven. Number three is earth. Number four is commander. Number five is method and discipline. When we talk of moral law, it means you assess the attitude of the people you lead, whether they will follow you religiously when you launch the war. So when we look at the two countries, there are the concurrent.
Okay, we can't hear you. Your network is not, Doc, your network is not good.
And there is a bond of brotherhood. So, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we hear you. You can as well.
Are you hearing me?
You can talk without video. You can use auto.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Now I can talk. You can hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
So what I was saying is that according to Sun Tzu, there are 5 factors you consider before you go into war. Number one, it is moral law. Number two, heaven. Number three, earth. Number four, commander. Number 5, method and display.
I think get your network. Daktari, we want to get no. Daktari, we want to get your views properly. Organize your network. A production in Nairobi. Production in Nairobi. Help the doctor, please. Let's look at organize your network first. Tawish Olisasana, you have your hand up. The same question.
Sure, Daktari. Thank you once more for this opportunity. I think, Daktari, you've asked the question as to why we cannot or we've not been able to resolve this dispute between Kenya and Somalia. And my thinking is, I put the whole blame on President Farmajo Mohamed of Somalia. I think he's not demonstrated that willingness and determination to see into it how we can restore the diplomatic ties and relationship that Kenya and Somalia has enjoyed over time. And therefore, it is expecting too much from President Farmajo for us to have this actually dispute and other conflicts that Kenya has had of recent times between Kenya and Somalia. And the same thing is about the AU. I think the AU is seems to be a toothless dog. Allow me to say so because the person leading the AU as we speak today, the Chadian who goes by the name Muhammad Faki, seems to be not really competent enough to be able to steer or address the problems that affect this continent of Africa, Dr. ever since he came into office. We've seen his reluctance to address issues that actually affect the whole continent of Africa. So it speaks volumes, and I think the only hope maybe the people of Africa will be having is maybe when we have the next round of elections, just to elect a person who is willing and has the determination, the zeal to take the African Union to the next level. That includes addressing the issues, the perennial issues of insecurity, the diplomatic ties, the soaring diplomatic ties amongst the African countries in this region, Daktari. So what am I saying essentially, or in a nutshell, Daktari, is that Kenya and Somalia must find a solution. Either way, they must find a solution that is going to be favorable to either side. Kenya has displayed that actually goodwill from the word go. You cannot understand why Somalia is just coming all of a sudden today and say over 35 years when they have acknowledged all along this boundary and understood that these waters or this boundary actually belongs to Kenya. But here you have Farmajo who is now inciting the people of, inciting Somalia and the people of Somalia to actually fight the Kenyan counterparts on the basis of this dispute that was not actually there in the first place, including the kind of approaches that he has engaged by taking this case to ICJ without listening to Kenya and the other interventions from IGAD, from the African Union, even the relationship. We've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya going to DR Congo to meet President Felix Tshisekedi to try and see how we can solve this conflict. I understand earlier on, before President Kenyatta also went to Congo, to DR Congo, President Farmajo himself also went there to meet the president, and I think these were some of the issues they are trying to resolve. Remember, Kenya has also protested and even has given an ultimatum for the Somali refugees who are living in Kakuma at the Dadaab camp to leave this country, and I think that is not the way we need to take this kind of relationship between Kenya and Somalia. It is only time that Somalia really appreciates and acknowledges the great sacrifices that the people of Kenya and the government of Kenya has done in terms of humanity and also resource-wise. Daktari, we've lost lives in Somalia through AMISOM fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia just because we want to see a stable Somalia, because our understanding is that a stable Somalia means a stable Kenya, a stable Somalia means a stable region in the entire East Africa region and by extension, the African continent, Daktari. So I think Somalia must begin by appreciating such kind of efforts and see into it how they can humble themselves down, how they can come to a negotiating table. Because now Kenya going to the UN Security Council, the UN Security Council will be looking at it. What role has Kenya been playing all along in ensuring that peace and stability reigns or is normalized in Somalia? What is it that Somalia has ever contributed to Kenya, if I may ask Daktari? Kenya is the one who has done a great part in as far as seeing how Somalia can be stabilized. So I'm talking about the humanitarian sacrifices in terms of the relief, in terms of the refugees that Kenya continues to host. Here in Kenya, over 400,000 people who have actually been hosted here in Kenya by virtue of the instability and lack of peace in Somalia. So why is it that President Farmajo is so much focused on this maritime dispute when it is not actually giving us an opportunity to find a solution to the problem that we are having in Mogadishu and the rest of the Somalia region, Daktari? So I submit that Somalia must come back, must engage Kenya through this United Nations Security Council so that we can restore this diplomatic ties and ensure we find a solution to this maritime dispute. We do not want to see Kenya and Somalia fight. Like you've said, Dr. Masanga and the rest of the panelists, actually, Kenya is well placed to handle Somalia, and we do not want to take that route. In fact, when you look onto it, the presidents, the leaders of Somalia have all along been enjoying the ambience and the environment, the good climate, the good hospitality by the people of Kenya. So they will be the last people actually to anticipate maybe a fight or a war between Kenya and Somalia, because they will be losing by the end of the day. So, but we do not want to get into those extreme levels. Our prayer is that maybe sense can prevail by the end of the day, so that Somalia through its leader, President Mohamed Farmajo, can find it necessary to sit down and talk with the Kenyan counterpart, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Kenyan people so that we can find a solution to the maritime dispute in the Indian Ocean. I submit, Dr. Ari.
Thank you. For you, Tawish, and the panel and those listeners following this show, Tawish still has a hope that they could resolve this conflict before it blows up into a full-scale confrontational and a full-scale war. Wesonga, do you believe there is hope? Is there hope for a peaceful engagement that can avert a war? And as you go, before you come in, tomorrow, the Peace Security Council of the African Union is meeting to discuss the issue of Chad. As we speak right now in Chad, the two sons of the late president have now turned the guns on each other. So we see a country going to pieces. We see another country in the Sahel going to dogs. So here we are.